thought it's so funny when it's like, they're willing to spend your money, but obviously when it's theirs.
We're back on the Morning Brew. We've got quite a good conversation going over
Yes,
here.
we're
Amber.
talking about money and children and how they like. My son is all into mising his tooth fairy money. He lost a tooth,
Oh, is
and
that
he
right?
got 20 bucks from the tooth fairy, Larry.
20 bucks?
Yeah, and when you ask him, hey, are you going to buy your mom something, some lip gloss or something? He goes, no, I'm going to mise my money all day long.
Mise is a verb
Yeah,
now, huh?
he's mising it. Yes.
Well, very good. We have some expert guests. Maybe they could take Andreas on as a client. I don't know. We have Beverly Bailey here. She is a certified financial planner and is with Women's Financial Resources. Beverly, good to meet you.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
And our good friend Judy Lawrence is here, and she was on with us. Was it last week?
It was last week.
Author and money coach, and we're happy to have you back as well. So Beverly, a bit about your background.
Well, my original college degree is in geology.
Great.
And after about 10 years, I decided I wasn't all that good at it, that I was much better with money and numbers.
Money's more interesting than rocks?
Well, actually, rocks are more fun, but money's more necessary.
I see. Good answer.
You can always do geology on the side.
And that's exactly what I do. You've seen me driving around the Hamas with my rock hammer.
Good deal. Well, I know that we're here today to talk about women in business and our financial situation. We have very unique circumstances throughout our lifetimes as women.
That is very, very true, and that's what led to a big part of the women's financial resources. Was one thing is that from the very beginning, we are paid less. The pay gap is real throughout our working careers, and that means that when we get to retirement, our Social Security payouts may be less. If we do have a job with a pension, our pension payments are going to be less. So every time we turn around, women need to manage their money more intelligently. And that's one of the things where I think where Judy really comes in, is her system is simple but also intelligent.
Very good. How is it more simple and more intelligent, Judy? We talked about this last week, but in case somebody didn't see it.
It's really, common sense, and it's based on my book, The Budget Kit, which is, a common sense approach to managing your money. And Beverly has a series of financial classes, and so the Budget Kit is one of the books that I use when I teach the budgeting aspect. But in that part, I actually start off talking about what are all the overload issues that are keeping us from really managing our money effectively, because we're all dealing with overload now, so it's impacting our finances. I also talk about those messages we get as children about money and how that's affecting us as an adult. And then I get into like 3 steps, practical steps to keep it very simple for managing your money, and yet it's intelligent. And it's been a system that's been around for 30 years that just keeps working. And women get it. They really get it.
Yeah.
That's been a key thing for years.
Judy, what's the first thing you have your clients do?
Actually, well, first of all, just talking about it, being aware, conscious of it, how they spend their money or what their attitudes are about money, where do those attitudes come from? That's kind of the first thing we get into. And if they're married, each one having a different set of stories for how they view money. And then we'll get into like the 3 steps, one of them being kind of aware of what are those periodic expenses that kind of throw the whole budget, because that's the one thing people don't think about. Whether it's your property taxes, the kids going back to school, camp for the children, pet expenses, on odds and ends. And so I kind of get them thinking about that, so it's kind of a safe area in the beginning.
And they do come up.
Oh, they
year
come up,
after
but
year.
people forget about them. They overlook it until it's an emergency, but it's not an emergency. We can plan for the emergencies. So that's like one of the classes I cover in Beverly's series of other classes that she covers.
Well, let's talk about the workshops that you're going to be doing.
Yes.
Well, in the first workshop is a lot of the backstory, the Women, Money, and Power, about women have a lot of economic power, but they don't really know what to do with it. And because we've never been educated. So the first thing I actually start with is being organized, finding out all that information so you can answer the questions in Judy's book.
Yeah.
So that you know where you are financially and who you are too. We do a lot of psychological, little workshops about what's your attitude toward money, what are your stories, because that drives where we are right now, whether we're in a good place financially or whether we're in a scary place. So we start with that, and then we, like I said, we do Judy's workshop. She has a whole Saturday all to herself. That's the only thing we talk about is what she does.
Yeah.
And then after that, we go into, I do a series on explaining the financial world, investing, the basics. What do all these buzzwords that we use really mean, so that people can understand, you know, what they're trying to do. And one of the things that got me into this was financial planning is very important. It's also not something for just the wealthy. Everybody needs a financial plan.
Yeah.
And so all of the workshops I do are geared to that when all this is done, I can sit down with the participants and say, okay, let's do your financial plan. Here are your goals. Here are your resources. Here are your challenges. How are you going to get to those goals? And I've added this time a hypothetical participant. Her name is Barb. And we're going to go through the financial planning process with Barb. From setting her goals, from learning her financial situation, figuring out how to achieve her goals, and try to make it real for the women that are participating.
Wow.
And it's never too late to turn your situation around.
No, I'm a classic example, actually. The end of 2012, I found myself in a really ugly place financially. And part of my digging out was the budget kit. Because I was the classic example of every month I had a $300 emergency.
Oh, yes.
Something
And it wasn't the car blew up.
Right.
It was I needed to renew some software or, you know, something like that that came up every year.
Yes.
And so this book has been like my lifesaver. I sit down every month, I do my homework, and I do it every month so that because I'm good at the investing. That part, I'm good at that. But getting from August 1st to September 1st without panicking, I wasn't doing very well at that.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And you work also with women who are widowed, women who are divorced. I mean, that's very valuable, and you don't have to be either one of those. You can be in a regular job or relationship, but all the different topics you cover help women because we assume they know, but it's awkward to kind of admit you don't know half of these things. that
Yeah,
they're
and that's
talking about.
one of the things that my clients have told me for the 20 years I've been in the business is that I'm very good about answering questions and that that make them feel like it's a dumb question. Because if you don't understand it, it's not a dumb question.
Like you said, Judy, this is something my wife and I are talking about, having that conversation about where are things, making sure that
That's
everybody's
critical.
aware.
I've worked in situations, well, one, there's just been a recent death, and the widow now is
Right.
dealing with, where is it? And it's
Yes.
not like she's not a professional, she is, but if the husband, that's kind of his thing, and the passwords are in the, online and all that, and well, where is all of this, and what's all out there, and not taking the time to get that organized and sharing, here's where the system is, here's a file that it's in, here's what it's called. Call Beverly, she's our financial planner, she'll handle it, and something that you know all of it.
And here's what we spend our money on every
Yes,
month. Guess
yes,
what? You're
yes.
expensive. I don't know anything. What are you going to do? No, that's it's like it's daunting, but this is the reality is that if we do look at it in a time where you're not in a crisis, you'll
Yes.
thank yourself
Yes,
for the future.
yes.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Totally.
I was asked to write an article several years ago about what to do for a woman that was suddenly widowed. And after I jotted down my 25 pages of ideas, I said, okay, here's my article, is if you have not thought about this and pre-planned it and gotten yourself organized, you are doomed.
Right.
Yeah,
You're not
It's
going to make
overwhelming.
it.
So scary.
when do the
And
workshops start, ladies?
They start on August the 16th.
Okay.
They're held from 9 to 1 over at Atria Vista del Rio over here on Indian School. The first class, the Women, Money, and Power, is absolutely free. So you can come check it out, see what we're doing,
Yeah.
and decide if you're interested.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. We're out of
Okay.
time, but I love this whole idea and the concept behind it. Great stuff, and I'm glad you're offering the first one free.
Well, thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thank
Hey,
you.
Beverly,
Great
good to meet
see
you.
again.
Good to
Nice
meet you.
Great
Good
to
to see you,
see
Judy. More to come on the Morning Brew right after this.